I got a question. Do you guys know where the statue of Reese Davis is on campus? I've been looking all over the place. I've been asking people, do you know Reese Davis? And they said, Reese who? I don't know the truth to that. But I guess I'm supposed to answer questions here.
Coach, we look at Alabama's offense, just regular stats like points per game and their offensive efficiency. They're on a historic pace. What have you kind of gleaned, or what are your takeaways from how they've been able to be so effective this season?
I think part of it is they can play that small lineup. You can have four guys that can stretch the floor, open up the floor, put it on the floor. And I call it floor gamers and shot makers. They've got a team of floor gamers and shot makers. And, you know, this is who they are and how they win. Like, you know, basketball's an interesting sport. Can you impose your identity on your opponent? And if the game gets up and down, and people don't slow them down, they can play in space. They can get enough stops so they can get out in transition. Alabama's a really hard team to play against. That's why I think they're tough out in the NCAA tournament, despite the defensive struggles, because you can't prepare for them the second night in 36 hours and simulate what they do, even on film. You just can't get a feel for that. And I just think it is, look, they got an elite backcourt. I think those three guys are absolutely terrific. They got a tough matchup at 4 or 5, depending on what they do with Grant. And they play with incredible confidence. And I think the other thing that's interesting about them is they're a hard scout. You know, everyone thinks, well, it's, you know, threes and free throws and layups and sounds good, and, you know, space and, you know, pace and space and all that stuff. But they play off of concepts. And concepts are hard to scout and prepare your team to defend, because you have to defend out of concepts. So you're going to be putting a ton of random ball screens. You're going to be putting a ton of ghost screens. You're going to be putting a ton of re-screens. And that's hard to cite, especially for young teams. So good players, good scheme, confidence, and if they create pace, they're going to get 100.
You mentioned that they'd be a tough out in the tournament, but the way that they're playing, is that sustainable for a tournament? Or do you think they have to get drastically better on defense to make a run?
I think they got to get better on defense, kind of like Kentucky's situation. I think they got to get better on defense. Can they get better on defense? I think that's the biggest thing. I think they got to be able to do the tough things more consistently defensively. I think they've got to be communicate better defensively. You know, it's kind of interesting to me because they play against every single day in practice actions that are really hard to guard. Really hard to guard, especially and sight them. So you would think that there'd be carryover. They just got to get tougher. They've got to get more competitive defensively. They've got to get to a point where they're guarding the ball, they're communicating, and they're connected. And there are too many times that they're not as connected, or then they give up a second shot. They got to get more physical in the front court. That's why I think Pringle's a big factor for them. I think Pringle gives them some length and athleticism, ability to defend ball screens, get back, protect the rim, grab a rebound in traffic. I'm not sure they get those as much as they need to, but it's really about doing the tough things consistently. The best teams do the tough things consistently. I mean, it's plain and simple. Offensively, they're going to score, but to really score, they got to get stops. Because if they can score, if they can get stops, or they get deflections and turnovers, it's kind of like the second half gets Ole Miss. All right, once they started really kind of getting some stops, what do? They get on a 6-0 run, a 9-0 run, a 12-0 run. It's bam, 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 and it happens quick. Now, they'll be where probably coach wants them to be when they can do that consistently. Until they can do that consistently, yeah, then it's a little bit of a variable. They're relying so much on creating those threes, where it's a lot easier being created when you're not taking it out of the net. Yes, sir.
Can you talk about the growth of Grant Nelson within the type of offense? At the beginning of the season, you see Grant playing more of that 4 hybrid role, but now we're seeing him more stretch 5 role, and obviously his growth on the defensive end. Can you talk a little bit about his growth?
Yeah, I think that he's a tougher matchup at stretch 5 because he's getting matched up with a 5 instead of a 6-7 guy to get underneath him and kind of move his feet and guard him. Now, when he's being defended by a 5 as opposed to a 4, all right, he is quicker. I used to play last week, actually. I did something on Alabama's offense, and it was just a simple trail drag ball screen, and Sears drags 2, throws it right back. Now you got a big 5-man closing out to him, and he just destroys the guy. John fake, boom, gone. He also creates space, obviously, as the five, if he can get some corner spacing out of it, and they can play off a dunker spot on the other side if they have to. So, and then defensively, I thought a couple games ago, I thought he stuck his nose in it a little bit more. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you know, there's a big difference between playing the league he was in and the league he's in now. The speed of the game, physicality, the bodies he's playing against. I mean, think about probably Tulu Smith, the first time they probably played against each other, and then, you know, he fought back. I think that's the biggest thing, is that he's got to realize, one, they're bigger bodies, you're gonna have to bang. If you don't bang and they bang you first, you have a problem. So low man wins. And when you're defending in the post area, you're trying to be physical defensively. It's not your upper body, it's your lower body. All right, it's being on balance. It's taking a guy's legs away. You know, it's defending him early and moving him off the spot just a foot. So I think he's starting to learn that. I don't think he had to do those things a year ago. You have to do those things in this league. And then, you know, the speed of the game, just, you know, we're not watching the fly of the ball where ball gets shot, boom, find someone and go get it. I think, you know, again, moving up this level, ball gets shot, if you go find the man and don't react, that guy's just wedging you underneath, he's rebounding the ball. So just getting used to playing hard for a long period of time. I mean, really, it's, you know, that's, you know, when I was coaching, that's the biggest problem you have with guys that transfer up. Like, no different than with freshmen. You know, like the two freshmen you guys have. They're playing hard is being redefined. Competing is being redefined. Freshmen, you have to redefine playing hard. When guys transfer up, you gotta basically redefine how physical it is. And then freshmen, on the other hand, you gotta basically get them to understand how to play team defense. You know, ball screen defense. Look at all the teams that have struggled defensively. Kentucky played a bunch of young guys. Baylor playing young guys. Nate doesn't play those two guys together a lot, it seems, because if you play them together, it's a disaster. In my opinion, not his opinion. I mean, because now you got two guys that are not sure, you know, two guys are running to the ball, they're not talking, they're not rotating, they're not out on ball screens. Maybe you're supposed to switch, they're not switching, and then all of a sudden the other three guys are like going, what the blank? You know, and that's what happens when you have young guys on the court defending, especially at this level.
You look at what Dalton's done all year for the Vols. I mean, 25 points last time he played the Tide, 39 on Wednesday was outrageous. Is there any way that you can possibly see this Alabama team neutralizing him at all?
Yeah, I mean, I would think any ball screen he comes off of or any kind of ISO, they're going to send a second defender out and probably go with him on another big. I mean, it's just common sense. You can't let the other team's best player beat you. The difference between this Tennessee team and maybe last year's, I'm talking big picture, is at the end of the game, they have a guy they can play through. And at the end of the game, they have a guy who can take over the game. And you saw that happen, obviously, the other night, and he was freaking ridiculous. But he's done that like 4 different times. So they can't stop and watch him. But yeah, you look, be physical with him, defend him early, get the ball out of his hands, make it hard for him to catch it. Run second defenders at him in any ball screen or any quick ISO where you just run a second defender at him, get the ball out of his hand, make him make one more. Now, he made a couple passes, he made a huge pass at the end of the game the other night, where out on the perimeter, the first time they trapped him and got out off the trap, and then he punched in the gap and just shot a pull-up, and I'm like sitting there going, like, what are you doing? If you put him in a trap, like, till he gives it up, you can't lead the ball. But the second time they stayed on the trap, and he did a really good job of skipping it to, I think Vescovy in the corner, and Vescovy on the right-hand corner, Vescovy knocked down a big 3. So he's learning how to play out of that, but he's got to keep him out of transition. Because like he's getting to the basket or he's shooting pull-up 3 in transition. He's really, really good. He, you know, to me, he went from a guy, I don't even think he was first team all-league, or he wasn't even player of the year in the league he came from, I think the Summit, to like, you know, he's probably SEC player of the year.
I was gonna ask, is that still up for grabs in your opinion? And then if so, how much does
I
it
think
like
Sears is in it a little bit, I think. But yeah, I mean, and Antonio Reeves is in it. I think those 3 guys kind of separate themselves. But I think Connect, like he does stuff that's just dramatic. Like, you know, you talk about being memorable. Like all you guys, I'm sure there's a play you've seen Dalton Connect make this year. You go like, holy shit, right? Like, and dude turns the corner and just like Trump's up and looking down on people like, going like, really? You know, he's, so I would think he's the front runner, but I'll tell you, Reeves and Sears are in the conversation. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Reeves has had big games and big moments. He had a great game against Auburn, and Sears has been just good all season long.
Given what Alabama lost last year, are you surprised to see them be this successful and be this good this year?
Not surprised. Well, I mean, first in the league right now. Maybe surprised at the top of the league. I mean, you know, but that's the unpredictability. I mean, everyone. I'm sure you guys. I don't usually fill out those things at SEC Media Day. I'm sure you guys do. And everyone thought it was going to be Texas A&M, right? You know, or Kentucky, or you know. But yeah, surprised but not shocked. I mean, I knew what Estrada was. He was my dude of the day last year when it was at Hofstra. I knew that backcourt would be tough. I'm a big Ron Griffin fan. I just think that I thought he was going to take another step forward. Nelson's credentials coming out of, you know, transferring were really good. But yeah, I'd say surprised, but not totally shocked. Again, the league's good, Nate's good, environment's good guard play. The better teams are younger, you know, some younger teams. You know, the two older teams, Tennessee was one of the older teams, and then A&M was the oldest team. Losing Marble, I think, hurt them a little bit. They just can't shoot. When you shoot 27% from the field and 42 from two, I don't care if you rebound 40% of your misses, you're still struggling. So, I would think this thing is fun to watch. These guys are fun to watch. They're fun to watch even on tape when I don't have to prepare. I don't know about how much fun they'd be to play against, but they're fun to watch if you don't have to play against them. Yes, sir.
About a decade ago, SEC was really struggling to get teams into the NCAA tournament. Now it's a league that might have the most teams in the NCAA tournament. Is it scheduling, coaching, players? What's made the SEC such a good league in basketball?
Mike Slive, when he became commissioner, he said, we have all the resources to be really good in men's basketball. And we're gonna go out, we're gonna basically put pressure on athletic directors to hire coaches, to build facilities, to build the infrastructure, and to support college basketball. And you're all in great world-class universities, in passionate, fan-based communities. If you can support a football program, surely you can support a basketball program. And basically, if you look at the coaches that have been hired, you look at the infrastructure that's been hired, you look at the commitment that's been made, you know, your investment equals your expectation in whatever you do in life. You know, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a business, whether it's making a commitment to an athletic program. And your investment equals your expectation, and there was an investment made. It was all Mike Slive's vision for that. And so it doesn't surprise me, and it's not gonna change. It's only gonna get better as the league obviously continues to grow and get better. But like, to me, there were 7 solid teams in the tournament to get as many as 9. I said it a couple of weeks ago, I think it's the best conference in college basketball, because I think the top of the league is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, the top of the league. Like, if you don't play really, really well, you got no shot. So, I think college basketball and college football can coexist. You don't have to make a choice which one you want to be good in. You can be good in both of them. And I think that's what's happened in this conference, which is, it just makes sense. But the SEC takes a backseat to absolutely no one.
We have time for one more. Anyone else?
Bill's coming in next?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say, you'll really get bored.